And even after sending emails and requests, and even after being told, hey, make sure to contact the legal department, it's kind of embarrassing, but we're just not getting any answers. We're still not getting any answers, even to this day.
That's what happened. I was a little bit upset in the phone call. I'm like, listen, man, why don't you call me back? And Bill calls me back and goes, I've never seen anything like it. They've taken your money. You sent Facebook a physical check in 2016 to California. They deposited it. And we still just can't get them to say they took your money.
Tech capital of the world sending a physical check.
As promised in the first segment, this man, well, he needs an introduction. I've been doing all of this press this week, and with the situation going on, whenever you get into the legal issues, there are things you can say, there are things you can't say, so I thought, we have a pretty big show. Let's skip through it. So I'd like to introduce you of Platt, Chima, and Richmond, PLLC, PCR firm, partner there, which bodes well for me, and my attorney, Bill Richmond. Sir, are you there?
I am.
Well, thank you for being on the show, sir. I know this isn't typically on your to-do list, probably, right?
It isn't.
It isn't. Okay. Because I reached out. It was one of our mutual friends, Harvard Law grad, and I talked to him about something that had been going on for a while with Facebook. We can get into it. It was kind of a technical issue. He just goes like, yeah, we'd rather represent Facebook because they have more money, but here's a guy who probably could help you. So I appreciate the cojones that you have, because if you're just going to run a numbers game, it's easier to be on the side of the behemoth. So, listen, you tell me if I'm out of line anywhere here, because you're my lawyer. He's a lawyer.
Lawyer.
And he knows what we can and can't say. People are going forward. They've misspoken. I've corrected them. They say a lawsuit. No. We've not filed a lawsuit against Facebook. It has nothing to do with this umbrella term censorship. Bill, you are the qualified lawyer. Let the audience know exactly what it is that we have done.
Well, I think it's easy for folks to try and say, well, it's a lawsuit, it's in a court, you're requesting something, but there's a lot of difference when you actually want to think about using the word lawsuit and what we're asking for and what other folks are asking for. This is a request for information. It is called a petition. If you're in federal court, they have different words for what an initial lawsuit is. And in this one, we're looking for information, and that's why it's titled the way it's titled.
Right. We are looking for information. Now, okay, there are a few things, and you'll let me know what we can get into, what we can't, because obviously the Gizmodo issue goosed us along, but there's a long paper trail. This has been going on for a while. It was, I don't know if you call it a clerical issue, a mishandling of finances, and we were at a point where...
Or technical douchebag issue.
Technical douchebaggery.
Lawyer terms. To use their
Good
terms.
Lord, please, Mark Zuckerberg is watching this right now and taking notes. Careful, Jared. You're an incredible liability. This is an issue regarding a clerical... Tell people exactly what this is behind the scenes that you and I were working on for a long time, and then we're past the point of no return. We had no more options. Gizmodo goosed it along. So let them know, for those who can't understand me.
Well, for a while here, I mean, since the request that we've been made, you tried to reach out individually before I got involved, and then you were getting rebuffed time and time again, and so you decided that you needed to have someone kind of with a little bit more heft come in and see if we could get more communications and open up a line of communications about the problem that we're facing and on this billing issue, this mishandling of the payments. And even after sending emails and requests, and even after being told, hey, make sure to contact the legal department, it's kind of embarrassing, but we're just not getting any answers. We're still not getting any answers, even to this day.
That's what happened. I was a little bit upset in the phone call. I'm like, listen, man, why don't you call me back? And Bill calls me back and goes, I've never seen anything like it. They've taken your money. You sent Facebook a physical check in 2016 to California. They deposited it. And we still just can't get them to say they took your money.
Tech capital of the world sending a physical check.
That's like the lady writing a check in the sardine aisle, at the grocery store, and them coming back and her saying, we never got the check for the sardines. So just to be clear, Bill, there's obviously a paper trail. You know that I said, we just want to get this resolved. I don't want this going to creditors. They were taking payments from me before, during, and after this event. They still are to this day, just to run very low-dose ads. But for some reason, they wouldn't charge me, and they refused to acknowledge that they've deposited a check, which we both know they took.
That's everything that we're seeing, and that's why we sent those requests. That's why you sent your requests. That's why I sent my requests, and that's ultimately why we're at where we're at. It's another escalation of we have information, and we have issues, and we need to get those things resolved. Knock, knock, knock. Someone get an answer.
Right. Well, and obviously the Gizmodo, and you know, I told you right up front, I said, listen, just so you know, it's well known kind of in conservative circles, people think that there is selective editing. We have had posts removed with no justification. They've not told us which posts or which cause. I said, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is going on. So when we started talking, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is going on, but I just want to get this issue resolved because this is a clear-cut financial issue that we just want to be over and done with. And then Gizmodo happened, and that raises some pretty concerning questions as to why this is happening, right?
That's exactly the case. I mean, when we were looking at this as a billing issue, we thought, well, they're a big company. Maybe it's just a clerical error. Certainly, why would Facebook want to go after a particular account like this? And then when you listen to all the reasons that have come out recently this week, not just from Gizmodo, but from other folks who have been jumping on that story and revealing even more facts, it does start to lend you to think this is the answer to the why the billing issues were happening, in addition to the other issues in terms of your accounts.
Right, because in addition to the evidence that people see in front of the scenes, and tell me if I'm out of line here, you have seen a ton of emails, screenshots, posts, inconsistencies that we looked at and we're going, okay, well, we don't want to go down that road, but you've been aware of this for a while, right?
Certainly, it's public. It's public facing. If someone were to be watching your page all the time, they may even have been able to see this as well. Posts that go up, posts that go down, posts that come back, and behind all of this, again, is your ongoing requests, and then ultimately our ongoing requests for transparency. What's happening? Can't you tell us?
Right, exactly. Let me ask you this, to boil it down. So I sent them back and forth emails with accounts payable. I made several accounts available to them, accounts that they still use for, again, these low-grade ads. We are independent. We don't have anyone else running ads for us. It comes entirely from Not Gay Jared and myself. These are still running today. The same accounts that I made available to them for this very specific payment, I reached out. I tried to get on the phone. I finally had you reach out. You went through all of your avenues. Was there any other option aside from filing for this petition for information at this point? Because they still haven't resolved it.
The only other option would have just let them get away with it. I mean, it would have been saying, well, you can just keep my money and keep doing this. But, you know, ultimately, that's why this is exactly the way that it is. It's not a lawsuit for damages, and people keep trying to characterize it that way. It really is a request for information, and it's an escalation of the requests that have gone to this day unanswered.
I will say this. I haven't spent a lot of time with him in person. Bill Richmond, when you hear him on the phone, this is not what I pictured.
Hey, I'll tell you, if I can, a real quick story.
Yes.
It's funny when I show up in an interview with the name Bill Richmond, and then I walk in and people are like, I don't think I ordered any lo mein. And I'm like, nah, okay, I'm just going to.
You're far less Jewy than I imagined.
Well,
My sister's Jewish. Yeah.
Your sister's Jewish?
Yeah.
She converted?
Made it happen for love.
So so going back to this, this is where we are. And of course, people are going around there being irresponsible. I just feel like news hosts a lot are irresponsible when they say lawsuit, or they interchangeably, for example, use battery and assault, which happened with the Donald Trump, Corey Lewandowski thing. And it wasn't even necessarily someone who filed a report, but someone misreported it, right? We see that happening all the time.
Yes.
So we've clarified exactly what this is. And like you said before the break, the only other option at this point that we had on the financial side was sit down, take it. They took the money, never let them respond, and it would go to collections like a gym processing fee. We've all had that, right?
Yeah, that's ultimately where they could have taken it, because according to their records, as they've continued to say over and over again, no payments have been made on this account, again, despite the check, despite the fact that they're taking money through another account on the same payment methods.
You've never had this? Have you ever had this before? I mean, I would imagine you deal with these kind of like basic small courts issues all the time, but have you ever had it get to this point with any other company before?
No, I mean, a lot of companies, they'll brush it off, or, for example, a lower level person will say, you know, they'll just ignore it because they don't really understand the gravity of the situation. But even here, even our legal requests have come back with, well, you need to talk to legal, and our response is, we've been trying to contact legal and they're ignoring it. So we know that they're getting the requests, and other companies would oftentimes get on the phone, give you a call, send you a letter, even just a letter that says, we don't think there's a problem here.
Right.
But here, there's just no response.
Well, okay, that begs a question for me, despite ignorance or collusion, whatever the reason is that legal to just not respond to a legal request?
Well, to a request from a lawyer sending a letter, we sent that as a non-legal maneuver. In this particular example, where we have the petition to not answer, it's not illegal in the sense of a crime, but they're once served with the petition, they have an obligation to respond if they want to do anything in the petition itself.
Okay. Well, and again, I want to make sure that people understand we're not suing because, they don't like conservatives. They can do whatever they want, right? The issue with Facebook, and we know this, we've seen this with Twitter, is the social media platform that's most valuable is the one that's most effective, user-friendly, and namely the one that they trust. They're only as valuable as the trust of their users. Now, if they and right now, currently, as of this show, they're swearing up and down that they do not curate, they do not selectively edit or censor, for lack of a better word, any content. They're swearing up and down. Right now, people can go read an article of Mark Zuckerberg on a live mic telling Merkel, we're going to get rid of these anti-immigration stories. So they're swearing up and down they haven't done it, which I think, Bill, I think that's making the situation worse for them, because I have said they have the right and defended their right. But if they're saying that and there is any proof that the public knows, if that happens to be true, or maybe something that perhaps we have experienced, if there is any proof that what they're saying is untrue, that's a real problem.
It does. Big problem. It creates a big problem with we're selling a product that does a certain thing and is handled in a certain way, and that's the ad services and the users that are ultimately part of it, and in reality is a completely different situation. A lot of the stories these days are in the last few days have said time and time and time again, we use an algorithm, it's completely objective based on the criteria that we put in, don't worry about it, and now apparently there's a lot of questions about that.
Right. Well, and that's for the users, and then of course to the paying advertisers, on which Facebook make billions, I would assume hundreds of billions
so much money.
Where they court advertisers, right? They tell people, you can go right now to Facebook ads. We're the best place, and they give you the pitch why. And that's the one time where you can actually get in contact with somebody when they want you to start advertising, because we are the biggest social media platform. It is an open and free exchange of information. Once you acquire these people, they're your fans. That was another thing people got upset about. You started having to pay to reach your own fans. And that's something that's well documented. It's not a political issue. So if they're saying that and they're courting people and then potentially harming the brand that they're courting to pay them, it would seem to me, regardless of whether it's political or they just don't like your face, that's an issue.
It does create an issue, and it's not something that just strikes one side or the other. I mean, in this particular case, it could go either way. So it's less about which side is being held down or suppressed or targeted, as the article went to list, but what is being sold to these business partners and people who are giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to make this happen. I mean, other small businesses are out there counting on Facebook to allow their posts to go through, and based on a certain understanding of how it works.
Well, I will tell you, and Jared and I, Nake Jared is my producer, he knows this. Any conservatives out there have just said, like, yeah, you can invest this in Facebook and it'll work short term, but part of your business model just has to be it could all go away because Facebook chooses to, and they change their whole way of doing it. That's just the risk people take.
We've had that even just with the algorithms just since last year. We've had a couple of those, like, Facebook changed something. Facebook, you got to readjust everything, and you just never know when that algorithm doesn't include your business.
Right. Well, and we've always come out on top because we've always focused on creating good original content and a user experience. So it's benefited us. I mean, I'm the first to say Facebook has been immensely beneficial to independent voices like myself. For people out there, this happens a lot. Facebook will remove posts, and we've had this happen. So this is something, I mean, I don't want to get into Exhibit A through Z, and there's more information than we could go through in a lifetime, but if Facebook just removes a post, and they say it's a violation of policy, well, what happens is, if we're uploading, let's say, 5-6 posts a day, we can't know which post. They refuse to say which post, and you say, okay, well, which policy? You say, well, we're not going to tell you which policy. In business, doesn't there have to be some semblance of good faith where you can go, hey, man, we're sorry if we violated a policy. We want to work with Facebook, which is what we said. We're really happy to work with you, but could you tell us which post was in violation of which policy? We're not going to tell you which post or which policy. Doesn't that pose a problem?
It does pose a problem. When you look at the terms of service or the other agreements that business users have and that they have when they're submitting this money for ads, there may be some language that deals with that. But ultimately, a lot of states have laws that say you have to have a product be what you have represented it to be. And in these particular cases, again, we're raising a lot of questions based on the article from Gizmodo and those that have come out since then about whether or not the product that is Facebook and all the money that's going to them for is what they've represented it to be.
Right. And in my case, this is something too that I've talked about. We've talked about on the show. I've caught a couple, because every now, I don't know how many posts have been removed. Like you said, someone publicly could have caught this, but I caught 3 and said, hey, this was removed. And they were all put back. They said, oh, sorry, that was an error. But if I wouldn't have caught it, it would have been removed for some arbitrary reason. Maybe someone was offended. And it potentially, depending, can count as a knock against your account, and then your account is gone, into which you invested finances.
Exactly.
Right. So, and that is something that we've experienced. Now, again, I want to be clear. Our motion is, or petition, like you said, I guess depending on where you are, is simply to reveal information, right? No financial damages. We're not looking for a specific amount. We still have, to this day, we still don't have the problem remedied, and we're going, why? We need the information to answer why. So if there's nothing going on, it would seem like Facebook should just say, well, okay, well, here's why.
That's the expectation at this point, is that, perhaps you give them the benefit of the doubt that this got stuck in someone's inbox, or some lower level person in their in-house department just didn't catch it, and that's why we've had to escalate it. So ultimately, no, this isn't a request for money. This isn't a request saying, look, we've got all of these causes of action, and we want to go after you and get something out of you besides information. And that's really what the answers that we want from this petition.
Right. And we need this specifically, again, because of the monetary issue. They've taken money, and that is something very tangible. On the flip side, it'd be nice if Facebook did that with very loyal advertisers in good standing who've been in professional relationships with them, where they would just say, hey, yeah, this post violated this policy, or hey, you know what, we just decided that we don't like you. Instead, they just don't contact. They take the money, they take money, they don't contact, and then sometimes people get the boot. What about consistency of policy? If, let's say, for example, maybe Facebook took specific ad money to promote a post. So let's say they took money to promote it because, they did a lot, boost a post. And then that exact same post, they then later said was, oh, it's a violation of policy if, hypothetically, they took money on that specific post. Is that a problem? Or, again, does a business have the right to just change their guidelines at any point, or is there some expectancy of consistency as an investor?
Well, there's agreements that are agreed to between the folks who are sending the money for the ads, the business users, and Facebook. And so to the extent that Facebook is deciding to change those policies, it does have a right to be able to change those policies with a certain amount of notice and that type of thing. And even having language built in that says we have the right to change our mind about how it's going to be done. But again, it gets back to the issue of, if you've advertised publicly, setting aside the contract, and you've told other people time and time again, this is how we run our newsfeed, this is how we take money, this is how we apply that money, and then now it's being done differently, that creates an issue aside from the contract.
Well, what they say they don't curate anything, right? That's what they claim. Again, they have the right to. What does a judge do? This is, again, hypothetical. You can tell me if you don't want to get into. It's well known. Mark Zuckerberg, right? We wrote about it. Said into a live mic, was caught to Angela Merkel, saying, "Yeah, we're gonna have to do something with these was it anti-immigration or anti-German government?"
I think it was Muslim immigration with the German government.
Right.
I think
anti-Merkel.
Yeah.
That's documented. So I would just have to imagine, doesn't someone have to look and say, okay, they're claiming this, unless we have access to all documents, there is an inconsistency with what Mark Zuckerberg himself has said. That's documented. All of this is public.
Right. It's not just Mark, but what other folks are saying in the Facebook hierarchy about it. And in other contexts where they were not under fire, they have made statements about how their algorithms work and how they treat the business users, the ads, the posts, and how those things show on the outside in the newsfeed. And those will be held against them if it turns out that there's some kind of inconsistency there.
There you go. And what we're looking to accomplish right now is get information and resolve the problem as painlessly as possible, correct?
Exactly.
Look at him. He's a nice man of Platt, Chima, and Richmond, PLLC. Brian Richmond. He's not delivering your lo mein. Get it right. Brian, thank you. And please come back and set us straight anytime we say something incorrect.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. We'll keep you posted as this story unfolds. Gosh, who knows where it'll go. Louder with Crowder. Stay tuned. Hey, if you like this clip, it's taken from the full-length podcast. Every week you can click that box down below to watch the full free video cast, or subscribe on iTunes to watch on the go. Click my face to go to louderwithcrowder.com, where we write plenty of articles, columns, and upset those who are easily triggered. Or click below me. There's some other video down there. I don't know what it is yet. Not Gay Jared is going to toss. It's probably going to be something ambiguous but uncomfortable.